Hey folks, this is David Wong, and today's video is sort of off topic. I'm not going to talk about cryptography, or I'll sort of talk about cryptography, but it's mostly going to be about drama. And also, it's not really about drama, it's also about startup life and being a founder. And I was, some stuff happened, and I was looking for an excuse to maybe do more vlogging or like be more transparent about what I'm doing and maybe communicate some of the stuff I'm going through as a founder, and maybe that's useful for people or interesting, and we'll see. So Sunday, I guess 2 days ago, I tweeted something. Maybe I'll read it since this is sort of a podcast or a video. I don't know what's going to be the format, but I'm not sure how people are going to watch that. If I'm going to release it, I don't know at this point. I tweeted something. Actually, backtrack that. I tweeted something and something bad happened. But before that, I actually got invited to do a ZK whiteboard session from the ZK podcast people next Monday. And so I was reading into ZK and the definition of ZK. As someone that's been in the ZK field for a while, it's kind of embarrassing to have to read about the definitions of ZK. But here I actually looking into the fundamental and the basics. And I find this paper called How Not to Simulate Plonk or something like that. And it's a paper that came out 4 months ago or 5 months ago. I think a lot of people are aware of it. The main author of Plonk, Ariel, tweeted about it way before the paper came out as just an interesting break or finding. And I look into the paper and I find a lot of the things I was really interested in a while ago. So when I was looking into Plonk at the time, I was wondering, how does ZK really work? How is, because ZK was added to Plonk, the zero knowledge part of the Plonk scheme was supposed to add privacy to the witness, and so that you're really not leaking anything. And it was kind of hand wavy in the paper. It was sort of added to the polynomials as blinding polynomials. I'm going to spare you the details, but it was kind of vague, and I've always wondered how it really worked. I remember the Mirror Protocol people with Daniel. They wrote a blog post on that added more colors, but I never really understood how a simulator would work and how they would really do it like an actual proof of ZK using these things. And so it turns out some master students found out that they tried to write a simulator and the simulator didn't really work, and they found out that actually they couldn't really write a good simulator for to prove something called statistical ZK. It doesn't mean that the scheme is not computational ZK, but usually you want to prove that it's statistically ZK. And computational ZK is like, if your adversary is computationally bounded, then they're not going to be able to do much. But statistical ZK is stronger, and that's usually what you want to prove if you can do it. But anyway, so they wrote that paper. I was reading that paper, finding it really interesting, and I got really engaged in it. And so I tweeted something. I tweeted, and I'll read it to you. Theoretical attack of the year. Plonk was shown not to be zero knowledge. Blog post incoming. And the reason I tweeted that was that I got excited. I have this series of Attack of the Year that actually came from Black Hat. Black Hat has this. Black Hat is a big security conference that happens every year in Vegas, and they have this Attack of the Year or something like that, where they highlight some cool research and some cool attack that was done, a cryptography attack. And so at ZK Security, we have similar blog posts that we release every year called Attack of the Year. And the last one was on Nova, which actually angered a number of people because maybe I'll explain that later. In the same way that this one angered other people. So yeah, so the tweet sort of was misread, or maybe I wrote it in a way that was kind of confusing. I think it can go both ways, but if you're not aware of that series of attacks, a series of blog posts, then I can see why you could misread that tweet. Also, people are not necessarily aware of who I am. I'm the founder of a ZK, a security company called ZK Security. And if I indeed found an attack in Plonk, I wouldn't tweet about it. I would do responsible disclosure and these kind of things. And so I guess if you don't have all the context, you might think that I had found an attack and I was being very insensitive about it and kind of and went on Twitter and instead of making sure that people are safe first. And so I tweeted that, went back to my reading the paper. I don't have Twitter these days because I deleted it from my phone, so I have to use my computer to check Twitter. So I didn't check it for several hours because I'm trying to tweet less, interestingly, or spend less time on Twitter. And I come back to these hours after, and it has like hundreds of likes and some retweets, and some people are panicking, and I receive angry messages or angry tweets from different people, including some of my clients. And it seems like some people freaked out and they thought the scheme was insecure and they started asking questions. And we're in this kind of economy where a lot of protocols are based on these constructions, and it's bad if people think that you're not the construction is broken, but your protocol and your company is broken. And so it caused a lot of stress to a number of people on Sunday, and that's where I am, right? So I tweet. I started tweeting just because I was tired of shit posting on my Facebook accounts, and I sort of used Twitter as my outlet to shit post. And now I'm at the point where some of my tweet will go viral and will have consequences. And not only that, they will have consequences potentially on my company, right? Because now I have a company. Whatever I tweet is supposed to represent the company in some ways, I guess. And so I have to be careful. And so yeah, so it was kind of a tough Sunday for me. I was trying to reflect on that, and thankfully, not everybody was like mean spirited. Like some people love to be mean on Twitter, and that's fine. Some people send me messages of support, showing me different interesting attacks or similar things that had happened. Not attacks, but a sort of drama from security people saying the wrong things or things like that. There was actually someone that sent me this thread on Lothing Mentis, who in his first job thought he found a vulnerability on Microsoft Office and then didn't, and then they had to do this whole nightmare handling to make sure that they could actually find a bug because they had contacted all the press. But anyway, there's a lot of fuck ups. People do fuck ups. I think the lesson is not to stop doing fuck ups. I think the lesson is just to try and understand that fuck ups happen and how to handle them, understand the space in which we're communicating and how we can impact people, especially as a founder. Now I'm not supposed to, no, I don't want to make enemies, or like I used to tweet stuff like this proof system sucks, or whatever was on my mind, like this paper is badly written, or this company sucks, or like whatever, or this is slow. But I can't really do that anymore, right? Because these might become clients of mine. I have very good relationship with a number of my clients, so I have to be careful about what I say, because I don't want to brush them off the wrong way. Even if they're not my client, they might become a client. So I thought it was interesting to also be transparent about that. I sort of had nothing to lose back then, but now as I'm more connected, I have to be more careful with what I say, and that's unfortunate in some ways. But it's sort of the downside of being successful and having more responsibilities and having a successful company and so on. So I guess that's not just a downside. And yeah, it made me think that it's interesting how these things happen. One thing that people can sort of remember from that is that we should always assume good intents, and that we should not be too serious about these things. Not everything is a game of life and death and about money or these kind of things. And yeah, actually, it all reminded me of when I was an intern during my first job at NCC Group. I think my first month or second month, I had a similar. Well, I had a way worse fuck up, I would say. Um, I remember feeling bad for like at least a week, maybe weeks after that. This time, I think I'm more rounded. I'm more stress and stress resilient and these kind of things. So I felt bad, but I survived, and I understand that these kind of things happen and will happen, and I'll have to learn how to handle them, how to do damage control, how to rectify things, how to make sure that my clients are happy and these kind of things. But at the time when I was an intern, I didn't know anything. And what happened was that I was supposed to hack a device or like look for bugs in this device. And I wanted to analyze the traffic between my computer and this device. I can't remember. I don't think it was Bluetooth. I think it was like over the wire. It was a wireless device, I guess, because that that actually checks out with my story after. And I didn't really know how to do anything. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll use a tool to intercept the traffic, and I'll analyze what the traffic says. But I realized that I didn't know how to do that on my computer. The kind of tools that people were talking about was these ARP spoofing tools that would basically intercept connections in your wireless network. And these were pretty easy to set up. I didn't have to modify anything on my computer besides setting a 0 to a 1 in some settings. And then I could just ARP spoof the entire network. And if my device was connected to the Wi-Fi network of the office, then I could intercept the connection. And I knew it was sort of bad, but I was kind of lazy and I didn't really want to figure out a different way. This was the easiest way to do it. I talked to one of the senior guy in the office, telling him, "I think I'm gonna do that." Like just to check how he reacted. And he was like, I don't think he was really listening to me in retrospect. And he just said, "Yeah, yeah, sure, that works." And so I just started intercepting all the traffic on the network. And funnily enough, they discovered that pretty quickly because I was working in a security company with very competent people, and I started seeing people panicking. Then they came to me, and they were like, "David, are you intercepting the traffic?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I told Drew, or yeah, I think it was Drew about it. I'm trying to analyze this thing." And they're like, "Okay, don't do that." And I remember they looked at me and they were like, sort of suspicious, but sort of understanding and panicking, and they didn't know how to react. They were probably like, "Should we fire this guy? Is he a spy?" And I remember one of my coworker, Vitaly, who was like this amazing human, like super nice guy, who probably is the reason I didn't get fired. And he told me, "I hope you found some good passwords." Like he said that jokingly, but like half jokingly. And yeah, even the manager I remember came to me and was like, and the manager was like pretty funny also. So he was like, "God damn it, David." But he didn't stop there. One of the guy at the office was a pretty intense guy, and sort of a very by the rule, very strict. And he sent a pretty inflammatory email to the whole office without mentioning me by name. But he said, "We do not do this." I can't remember what he said, but he felt like he was saying, "We're not noobs here. This is not okay." Like he felt like a personal attack. And I had very low self esteem, very low confidence. And when I read that email, I just melted and I was like, holy shit. And for like weeks, I felt like shit. And I made myself very little after that for a long time. Yeah, I think I don't want to do that anymore. That was that was an interesting story. In retrospect, I find it funny, but it's kind of a trauma, right? Like I sort of made myself smaller on the radar. Wanted to make sure that wouldn't get fired before I would finish my internship. And I don't want to learn these kind of lessons. I don't want to make myself too small. I don't want to like tweet less or produce less content because I'm scared of repercussions. I think there's a fine line between not saying anything and not getting canceled or not provoking drama and these kind of things, or talking too much and offending everyone. I want to be somewhere where I can still say what I have on my mind and produce content, especially if it's useful content, right? If it's educational content, if it helps people, and it's not stupid political stuff, which I also tend to tweet, and I should do less of that. But if there's a good intent and if it's educational and these kind of things, I think I should just continue doing it. I shouldn't let previous experiences dictate how I continue doing things. So anyway, yeah, I recorded that. I thought this would be interesting. I don't know how to tell these kind of stories. I went into so many tangents, but that's my story. That's how I wanted to tell it, I guess. And yeah, that's it.